Hello and welcome. Today is April 2nd and it would be a B day if we were still in school. And I am back in the seat, as you no doubt can tell. I have regulated Henry to the back. He is, working at his desk for today. So for today's video, I want to talk about something that's very important and something that I went over with my students at the beginning of the school year, and that is metacognition. And what is metacognition? Chances are, if you've spent any time on the internet, you have heard the word meta and probably seen people use it a bit too frequently. So let's start there. The word meta is a word that means to refer to oneself or self-referring, self-referential. So cognition means thinking. So metacognition is thinking about thinking, not thinking about yourself, in case you're wondering. So when we talk about metacognition, what we're talking about is thinking about how we think. And that's an important thing about being in a school and being a learner, right? If we want to be as effective of a learner as possible, we really have to think about how we think and how we learn. We have to understand our personal traits as a learner, our personal preferences, and probably the most difficult piece, our weaknesses as a learner. And that's where it becomes really difficult for a lot of people. It can be difficult to look at criticisms of who we are, and it can be really difficult to accept our weaknesses, but we have to do that. If we're ever going to improve at anything, we have to understand where we need to improve. We have to look at our weaknesses, and that's where metacognition is so important. So a couple of things to think about first with metacognition. We have to understand our strengths. Let's start with the easy part, right? How are we successful? Why are we successful, right? Look at the steps we've taken in the past to be successful. And we have to, when doing that, make sure that we're not like attributing things to either like blind luck or innate random skills or talents, because that isn't very helpful. If you just tell yourself or buy into the theory that you are just naturally gifted, you run into an issue where you assume that you have like this set amount of talent and you can just do things because of that. And that leaves little room for improvement, and it creates issues when things don't work out to the way you think they should based on that pool of talent you have. So try not to fall into that, right? Think about the steps you actually take. Maybe one of those steps is that you focus really well, right? When you study or work on something, you limit distractions, right? That's a step that successful people do. So maybe that's why you're successful. Maybe you're successful because when it comes time to doing work, you make sure that you follow all the steps that have been outlined for you to take. Maybe that's why you're successful. Maybe you're successful because you don't give up. Last video, we talked about perseverance, or at least he talked about perseverance. Maybe you're successful because you always persevere, right? When something gets difficult, you don't give up. And that's probably one of the most important things to success, right? So think about those things you do that help you be successful. You avoid distractions. You take away all those things that you know will divert your attention when you're working, and that allows you to focus more directly on your work. Right? So figure out what helps you be successful. Then move on to the things that you think are your weaknesses. Okay? Maybe it's when you read, you really forget what you've read after a page. Right? And in a previous video, I talked about like the importance of taking notes, right? And like you could like read a page, summarize a page in a sentence or two and use it on a post-it and stick it on the page. Find that way to combat that weakness. Maybe it's that when you start a task for school, you tell yourself right off the bat that you're not going to be good at it. And, that's how you're starting it. Terrible thing to do. Don't do that, right? You're setting yourself up for failure. So try to define what your weaknesses are so that you can start attacking them and fixing them, right? Because that's important. Think about that, right? Figure out what it is that takes away from your chances of success. Again, that's being metacognitive, and being metacognitive helps us be successful. So let's move on from there a little bit. We're going to be metacognitive. right now in this unique situation we're all in with distance learning, we've got some pretty demanding work for us, right? We are at home, we are surrounded possibly by siblings and parents or caretakers that all have to use a device possibly to work from home. We have multiple teachers providing assignments for us, and it can seem incredibly overwhelming on a good day. Let's not even think about what happens when you attempt to log in and whatever service you're trying to use is crashing under the strain of so many people trying to use it at once, right? We can't let that get us frustrated, right? Like we talked about with perseverance. We have to make a plan. Let's be metacognitive. Let's plan for this. Let's break up our assignments and figure out when to do things. Figure out which subjects we might be strongest in and that we think we can do first and quickest, right, with the most efficiency, and plan to do those when we have time, like the least amount of time, right? For example, let's say you know that, we'll go with science. Your science assignments are going to take the most amount of time. Think about the schedule of the day. Maybe you have an older sister or brother who at like say 10 o'clock in the morning is going to be on the computer, right? Or going to take longer. Try not to plan right before then to do science, right? So figure out a schedule. And of course, work with the people in your household to do that schedule, right? Invite them and involve them in that process. You'll make yourself more successful if you include all those people in your planning, right? Take breaks, right? That's another big step for this. Don't think that you have to do everything in one shot. A lot of science and research into brain-based learning has shown that things should be broken up into like 15, 20-minute chunks, particularly for adolescents and young adults, right? Meaning that after 15 or 20 minutes of learning or instruction, the mind needs a diversion. And we're not talking like an hour-long break. Even a minute would do. Just stop looking at the laptop or the device, close the book, take a breather, right? And then go back. That's important. Those little breaks are incredibly important because if you think you can just plow through straight for like 2 or 3 hours at a time, what's going to happen is you'll start off fresh, but as you start to go on in time, your ability to focus, your ability to do your best will decrease. And the science shows that, right? So again, being metacognitive, understand that if you want to do your best with everything, you have to plan your time. You have to take those breaks so you are in your best position to be successful, right? Now, the last piece might seem like it's not necessarily related to everything, but I think it might be the most important, okay? I know you have a ton of things that you probably have to do. You have like 7 to 9 teachers trying to get you to do all these separate different assignments. What I would think would be a great thing to do is to try something new. Pick up a new skill, practice something. Learn how to do something you've never done before. You've got a lot of time. Use it to expand your abilities and your skills, and I think that would be amazing, right? Take up a hobby. Try to learn how to draw. Try to start writing. Keep a journal every day. That's a great activity, right? My wife is trying to encourage her students who are learning to speak English to keep a journal. Wonderful activity, right? Drawing is something I personally love. This would be an awesome opportunity to get good at it, right? Draw something every day. And again, being metacognitive, don't like get frustrated, throw it away. Keep those drawings. It doesn't matter if your first drawing is, like a lumpy potato with, of course the pen I have is dead, but it doesn't matter if it looks like that. Keep it. And then 2 weeks of drawing every day, compare them, right? And look at what you've done better and think about why and how. Be metacognitive about it, right? If you have the ability to go outside and you have like some green space around you, think about if you can do something with that green space. some sort of like landscaping or gardening, okay? If you have access to things that you can build with, right, that would be a great activity. I spent the first weekend digging up large rocks and I built a stone wall. Why? I don't know. But it was fun. And now I have a stone wall. Who knew? Robert Frost might be proud or he might be angry. Depends on how you interpret it. Most people would say, not really excited. But try something new, right? Expand who you are and think about what it does for you. Something to think about. Until next time, I hope everyone's doing well. I'll keep those two in check to the best of my ability. Tomorrow is Friday, and I'll be going over some suggestions for reading and show you some of the books that I have enjoyed and that I am currently reading. And please do your best to stay who you are, stay calm, and stay positive. Always be a learner, always try to persevere, and remember, we're in this together, no matter what. Until next time, be good.